Let's take a look at the back squat. Any Olympic bar should weigh 20 kilos. There's a couple of key features when you're looking at the Olympic bar that Fiona is going to use to line herself up with the middle of the bar. The rough part of the bar we call the knurling. Most bars have 1 or 2 little grooves in the knurling about 3/4 of the way along on either side. She can use that to line herself up with the middle of the bar, or the edge of the knurling as it goes into the smooth stuff. Either way, she's going to make sure she's in the middle and use her hands, perhaps a thumb from the edge of the knurling or just inside the groove in the knurling, to make sure she's in the middle of the bar. So Fiona's going to find the middle of the bar, then she's going to get herself underneath, make sure that it's set. Now the bar can sit in different positions on the back. We call this high bar. It's up on the traps themselves. There is a lower bar position which sits much more around the base of the shoulder blades, but is more of a powerlifting stance. For most people, we're going to talk about the high bar position, and certainly that's what we're going to use in this one. So Fiona's natural position that she puts it in, probably a tiny bit lower down. Yeah, about there. So once Fiona has the bar in her normal position, she's going to stand up and out, and she's going to walk herself a couple of paces back and set her squat width stance. There is no universal squat width stance that you have to go to. It's whatever is going to feel the most comfortable. If you haven't already watched our Goblet Squat video, go and watch the Goblet Squat video, because it's going to teach you exactly what we go through for setting those things up. For now, I'm going to assume you know the rest of that. From here, Fiona's going to start squatting, and she's going to go as low as she can before she loses her spine position. That will vary person to person. As always, we're looking at the knees tracking, so they don't want to roll together inwards. So if the bottom of this one, go all the way down, stay there for me, and let the knees collapse together. So this is knee collapse. We want knees out. Boom. You'll notice this all gets a bit tighter when she pulls those knees out, as these muscles around the hip all turn on and start pulling that leg in a position, which drives up from there. Fiona is also going to pull the bar slightly down into her. When she pulls the bar down, actually what's happening is these lat muscles, and some of the back muscles in general, are tightening. Most people think of their back musculature as pulling their arms down, which is in part what it does. But because of their origin points, which is along the spine, if these 2 points lock together, it also provides some spinal stability. So by bracing, pulling the bar slightly down into her, she creates a bit more spinal stability than if her arms are a bit loose. Okay? So she's going to lock that down and in on her. Keeping that position, she's going to go through the squat again. And so she's trying to keep this nice and rigid. So if I poked and prodded her as she did this movement, she should be pretty good and rigid wherever I jab her. The squat is a whole body movement. And that really means that it needs tension through the entire system to do it correctly. We're only using a bar at the second, but when this gets heavier, and certainly when it's well above body weight, as almost all of you will be capable of doing within a few months to a year of squatting, you need your entire system to be braced hard against the load here. So we're just going to have a quick look from the front so you guys get a slightly different view of this. And I want you to pay attention to Fiona's chest as she goes through this. You'll notice it stays nice and tall. It's not collapsing. She's keeping the tautness of her top throughout the whole movement. If this stays taut, what really is happening is all of her back musculature are staying nice and rigid and in position. She's not losing any shape. If this starts to wrinkle and lose some of that, we're losing some of the tension as she goes through that, and she's going to be collapsing around the upper back. So you can use, if you're looking in the mirror, the tautness of your t-shirt or top as a marker for how much tension you're keeping in your upper back. You can also see from the front here, this knee position in a better line than we can often see from the back. Show us the knee collapsing in. This is knees collapsing in. We lose a bunch of different stuff. Knees need to stay out, chest needs to stay nice and top, and she squats as low as she can, again, before she loses her spine position. One of the things you can play with on this is what we call a box squat. So she could set something behind her or just underneath her at the lowest height she can squat to before she loses that spine position. If you don't know where that is, simply do a squat facing side onto a mirror, stare at yourself as you do it and discover, where do I get to before I lose it? Set a box to that height. Practice for a couple of months squatting to that position.